So why I did tell people and why I didn't tell people about my concussion, I did end up telling my friends because I it's weird. I think it was mostly because they all knew about it anyway. Because like some of my friends are in rugby, so they would like obviously like tell people, "Oh my God, Stephanie got a concussion." But I think the biggest example that I could use as to like why and why not would be for teachers. So why I did tell some of my teachers and not others, because when you have a concussion, your injury is not visible, and therefore the person you tell has to really trust you to not be making up like an excuse, like to not do homework or not complete a test or whatever and whatnot. And some teachers just don't do that. Some teachers really will like never take your word for it. I know some teachers at St. Thomas that were like, no, concussions aren't real. I remember one of my teachers literally told me that I don't believe you. You need to take the test anyway. And I obviously could not do a thing about it. So, because I needed the grade. And yeah, I just think that you really have to trust people when you're talking about concussions. And that really does go for teachers. So if you trust a teacher and you tell them they're really going to be there for you and they're really going to understand and they're going to give you the time to do the assignments and to complete the test, knowing full well that you're very, like, you have integrity, like you got a concussion. One teacher asked for my actual like medical report, like the actual like a doctor's note for my concussion, and that just, it honestly, it did play a big part when teachers didn't believe me, as to me like not believing myself that it was an actual injury, which did really play a part in me pushing myself further, because until recently I never learned how to really like take care of myself and like before pleasing others, and that especially went for my teachers. So like that teacher that asked for my doctor's note saw it and still said, nope, I don't believe you, like it's not a thing, you're gonna take the test. When it was an online test that was like 50 questions. So I definitely think why not would be because a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but a lot of the time people would belittle it because they can't see it. Unless you like dropped IQ points, which I know is not because of it and it's noticeable. There's a high risk of people not believing you. And why you do tell people is because you trust them, and like you trust them to understand that it's something that happened and not something you're just like making up for sympathy or to get an extension for a test and whatever and whatnot. So yeah, my coach, you're right, was a really big factor. Obviously for the rest of the tournament weekend he let me sit out because it was very evident that I had a concussion, but we started practicing again probably 2 weeks later, and he fully expected me to be back on the field. And maybe it wasn't actual pressure where he would punish me if I wasn't at a practice, but it definitely was. It felt like peer pressure almost, even by my teammates. Like, it sounds stupid, but a lot of the girls were like, "Oh, you're not coming to practice because your head hurts or like you have a headache." And I would just sit there and like, I remember one time I was walking out of class and I had my mom text me like a fake text message that said, "You are not allowed to go to rugby practice. I'm forbidding you to go to rugby practice," just so I had an excuse to get out of it. Because it's an invisible injury, like nobody really believes you. A headache sounds like a very, very easy thing to deal with, but it's a different type of headache, and it's really not good to get right back into the game after you're injured. So they obviously knew about it, so I didn't tell them about it, but that's a big thing when it comes to concussions, is like coaches, even players, like want you right back on that field.